Hey, welcome back, Leopard family. Today we're in Leopard's Den 2.0 with our wrestling staff. We got our head coach, Coach Casey Hanley, his top assistant, Coach Forrest Garner, along with Mike Brown, our assistant principal. We're here today to talk about our wrestling program.
So guys, what we want you to do is just tell us how the season went, and let's look forward a little bit and talk about where you think your program's headed.
I thought we had a great season overall. Dual meet wise, we had some gaps at the beginning because of injuries. And middle of the season, we ended up filling those gaps, and I think we were arguably one of the top two teams in the state. Late season, we had a few more injuries pop up and kind of hurt our chances coming into the state tournament. We still had 3 area champions. I think we had 6 or 7 state medalists and ended up 4th in the state.
That's fantastic. Let's we know you had a good middle school program and you've got some good young kids. Let's talk about them a little bit and where you think the program may be headed the next couple of years.
We have some 8th graders that I think are going to be phenomenal. I think they're going to slide right in, fill some of those spots. And I think it's going to be a good transition from this year to next year with them practicing with us the whole time. I think they're going to do very well.
Yeah, I think having those middle school kids acclimated to our practices, I think in years past it's kind of been a little culture shock coming from the middle school, into the high school practices. But this past season, we brought kids in, and we, basically they ran 95% of the practices with us. So I think that's going to help a lot moving forward.
Was that something we were able to do because of this facility?
Yeah, having this facility and having a practice room that's as big as this practice room is and able to hold multiple mats has just increased the possibilities of what we could do with the team.
Right. Coach, I know from watching you guys last couple of years, when we compete for region, we're competing for state also. So I'd like for you to talk just a second about how tough this area is in wrestling and talk about the teams in this area and then what they were able to go on and do. So just coming out of this area a lot of time kind of determines the state champion, correct?
Oh, absolutely. In our area, you've got Social Circle. They're 5-time defending state champions coming into this season. Behind Social, you had Elbert, who was projected to probably win state this year in the duels, and they have been consistently in the top 4 in the state. And then you had Oglethorpe County, who ended up placing 2nd in the state, and they've been building a program down there with Steve Mason and Tim Stoudemire for quite a few years now.
So our area probably had 4 of the top 5 teams in the state this year, or maybe the top 4 teams in the state.
Yeah, we did. I think Elbert County placed 3rd or 4th in the duels. Social Circle placed 2nd in the duels. Oglethorpe placed 2nd in traditional.
Right.
We placed 4th in traditional.
Tough go.
It's tough. I mean, basically you take one other team in the state, which was Chattooga, and it was kind of our area against the rest of the state, really.
Guys, this has been just a crazy end of the year, and I know that y'all are normally at this time of the year planning for summer practices and getting ready for next year. And you haven't been able to do that. You might want to talk a little bit about that as far as the young kids coming up and what they can expect, and maybe you don't know that. But we want to take opportunity now just to talk to our seniors, and we're going to step out of the way and just let y'all address them. Talk about what they meant to the program, talk about what they meant to you as individuals, and talk about what they meant to Banks County High Schools, because we're losing a good group of seniors overall, and we just want to encourage them and talk to them a little bit. So we appreciate y'all being here.
We had a great group of seniors this year. One of the seniors that comes to mind is John Coggins. John Coggins is one of the toughest kids that we've had out there. Just a hard worker day in and day out of practice. Unfortunately, at the end of this season, had an unrelated wrestling surgery that kind of put him out for the end of the year. We will miss John Coggins.
The next senior we had was Trent Edmondson, and Trent started wrestling as a freshman. I didn't know him then, but the last 2 years I've really got to know him, learn more from him. He knows wrestling, he's studied wrestling. Trent just had injuries during the season, and that ended up being a broken collarbone, which ended up ending his season early. Trent worked hard, he went to camps, he studied it like it was the subject, and that was his subject. Trent was probably one of the most technical kids in the room. He knew a whole lot. Injuries just plagued him this year, and he is going to be deeply missed.
Yeah, I think Trent still has college potential. The thing about Trent is he's not a fragile person. The biggest thing about Trent is he goes so hard he ends up hurting himself. So definitely Trent will be missed this year.
There is not a move that Trent will not try.
Our next senior is Parker Hobson. Parker Hobson started in middle school and has made great strides every year. None better than his senior year. Had an incredible regular season record of 36-2 and ended the season as a state medalist, a sectional champion. I think his overall record had 41 wins and 6 losses. Very difficult to replace a wrestler like Parker Hobson.
Parker's probably one of the most competitive in the room. If it doesn't go exactly how he thinks it should, he's going to be in there pounding on you, and it doesn't matter who he's wrestling, whether it's me or one of the other kids. He was constantly going nonstop, and I appreciated that. That's what I want from every single one of my kids. And he's going to be deeply missed. He worked his butt off, and I wish I had 4 more years with him.
Next senior is Gabe Dodd. Gabe Dodd is another one of our wrestlers that started in middle school. Gabe has transformed himself into one of the most physically scary kids that's passed through this program, and just has a motor that never stops. I think Gabe ended up with 44 wins on the season, state medalist, and in the practice room, I don't know if there's ever been a wrestler that was just more consistent in the practice room. Never complained about anything. Never heard him talk about injuries. The most I ever heard him say about an injury was, "Hey, Coach, will you help me wrap this up?" And that was about it.
I'm not going to lie, I hated Gabe in the room because I could be dog tired, and I'm twice their age, and Gabe's, every single time I'm out, hey, come on, go with me, go with me. Gabe is probably one of the strongest kids I've ever wrestled with, and it was a joy just to see him blossom over the next 2 years, these 2 years. He had a beautiful shot, and when he took it, it was phenomenal. Gabe and Trent, both of them, started doing freestyle and Greco last year, which really helped them out. That was one thing that I think really helped him a whole lot this year, was to open up his wrestling style.
Our next senior was a kid that we definitely were not expecting to get coming into the season. He did not grow up wrestling. Matter of fact, he didn't know anything about wrestling. But seeing him walk up and down the hallways every year, I harassed him nonstop. And finally, as a senior, he ended up coming out. And I guess it just so happens that Coach and I know what we were talking about. The kid ended up going 38-9 as a first-year wrestler. He was an area champion and ended up as a state medalist at 220, and that's Erwin Dermick. Hard to fill a hole at the 220-pound weight class. With upcoming freshmen, that's a tough spot to be in. So I'm glad we got to have Erwin for this year.
Erwin's probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest wrestler I've ever wrestled with. He didn't know a whole lot, but the little bit that he did know, he gave it 100%. And that was great seeing him on the mat, trying his best to do it, and he was always on the side right there. Even though he didn't know all the moves and all the verbiage for it, he was constantly on the side of the mat yelling at everybody, trying to get them up, trying to get them pumped and going, and that was greatly appreciated.
Our last senior is Wyatt Glenn, another one that we were not expecting to get back. Wyatt grew up wrestling in our program in middle school, and then transferred to Alaska and was wrestling up there for a few years. And so we did not know that we were going to have Wyatt Glenn coming into the season, and he filled a hole that was blaring in our lineup. And Wyatt's just one of those hard-nosed kids. He gives everything that he's got, and won some big matches for us this year. And I feel very grateful that we were able to get Wyatt back for his senior year.
The hardest thing for Watt was very first tournament that we went to. I believe he was actually in the finals, and he ended up getting a concussion during that match, and that kind of delayed him a little bit on the season. But he came back in the room. He was working his butt off, and like Coach said, he won some major matches that helped us as a team.
I feel very blessed to be in a program that has so many kids with experience like this one. Glad these kids stuck it out to this point. We've got some great returning kids. Jacob Voyles was our 106 this season. He ended up being 36-8. Jacob displayed a ton of heart at the end of the season. He beat their defending state runner-up at the sectional tournament, breaking his finger. It needed surgery, screws. And Jacob battled back, wrestled at state with the broken finger, and still ended up being a state medalist and earning us some big-time points. If Jacob doesn't come back, we don't bring home a state trophy this year.
And when we say he broke his finger, it was a bad break. And during that match alone, he hit a cradle on the kid, pinned him the entire time. Coach Knott never even knew it. He came over to the side, and he actually, after the match, and said, "Coach, I think I broke my finger." With a break like that, I would have been out there screaming on the mat. He didn't even face him. He continued to work during that match. He got the pin, and it never fazed him.
Yeah, he pinned the kid, and as he's pinning him, the kid's breaking his finger, and he never broke his grip. It's pretty crazy.
Even at state, we had some issues with equipment coming off, and even during the match, he never once stopped. He continued to wrestle. When they went out of bounds, we'd retape it, and he gave us everything he had, and that I can't ask any more from a wrestler than that.
Also returning is Angel Cruz. Maybe one of the biggest turnarounds I've seen from an 8th grader to a freshman. As an 8th grader, he was not near the wrestler that he was this year. He exploded, which tells you how much hard work can do for you just over a summer. I believe Angel worked with his brother a ton, worked with Coach Garner and Coach Mikulski a ton, and helped get him to the point that he was not only relevant as a freshman, but he was second in the area and was one match away from being a state medalist as a freshman in a very tough 113-pound weight class.
Angel's one of those frustrating cases, and I would say this to his face, so it really doesn't matter. Angel never believed in himself, and Angel would go into a match and he'd end up getting down 5 or 6 points right off the bat, and then Angel would get mad. And when Angel got mad, that's when we really saw Angel's wrestling come out, and he would give everything that he had. And he won so many big matches. Some of them he'd pin them, some of them it'd just be by a couple points, but he's got such great potential, and I really cannot wait to see how he does in the next 3 years.
Yeah, over 30 wins as a freshman in a tough weight class. It's very impressive. Also returning is Evan Clark. Evan is also returning state medalist. He had a breakout season last year. Sectional champion last year, area champion last year. This year was a sectional champion as well, and finished this season second in the state. Evan came up clutch. I think almost 40 wins on the season, and had just one heck of a state tournament, one heck of a postseason. And he's just one of those kids as well that I never hear him complain. He gives everything that he's got in practice, and he's never out of a match.
Evan has worked his butt off all last summer. He did freestyle Greco. He actually went to Fargo, which is the biggest national tournament in the U.S. for freestyle and Greco, and he wrestled for Team Georgia there. Evan has worked his butt off. Him and Parker both had tough weight classes. Both of them are very competitive, and that's why they were actually great partners to have together in the room. Evan is both the coach and I would call a funk wrestler. He would just do stuff, and he'd give 100% on it. And it may not be the most accurate thing or the correct move, I've gotten onto him several times, but he would always give 100% with it, and it would always work out for his benefit. And he's one who I can't wait his senior year. I really want to see him just come out and win on the big stage.
Also returning starter was freshman Kellen Wally. Kellen may have came into this program maybe the most highly touted freshman that we've ever had coming into the season. I don't think he had lost a match his last 2 years in middle school. Starting the year off, high school's tough. And when you're a high school wrestler and a freshman at 145, which is arguably the toughest weight class in the state year in and year out, you're going to take your lumps. And I think that early season, I think Kellen probably wasn't sure if he was as good as what his record in the past says that he was. But by the end of the season, he broke out at the area tournament, ended up being an area champion, and then placed second in the state at 145 as a freshman. It's crazy impressive. He's got the capability of, winning several state championships before it's all said and done.
Kellen, just like Cruz, I don't think he truly believed in himself all year. And I think his big turning point, which is where we want all our kids to peak, is that area. And I believe he was seeded 4th. He actually had the #1 seed in the semis, and he went out there and he dogged that kid. I mean, that kid couldn't do anything. And that was a real turning point for him in the season. And he started believing in himself. He went out there and he was just wrestling lights out. And that was a joy to see. I've been waiting to see him just open up, and he finally opened up. And I hope he continues to do that for the next 3 years.
Another returning starter that we've got coming back is Josh Stapleton. Josh Stapleton, I think he was also 36-2 regular season, area champion, and it wasn't close. It really wasn't close. He didn't have a match during area that anybody pushed him. He is one of the most hard-nosed kids we've ever had. He just never stops. He's constantly moving forward. And sometimes that hurts him. I think that hurt him a little bit at the sectional tournament. But Josh Stapleton ended up being a state medalist this year. I think that he knows, and we expect nothing less from him being in the state finals next year. I think he's got a great chance to win state.
Josh, just like a couple of the others, started doing freestyle Greco, which Josh is a big boy and he loves his upper body stuff, and I think that really helped him out. Josh works his butt off, and he'll give you 100%. He's one who, yet again, I don't like wrestling in the room, because if I ever take a break, I know I'm going to end up getting tossed or thrown or something else, so I've got to go 100%. And for me, I get tired, and he doesn't ever give me a break. Josh is going to do great things next year, and I can't wait to see it.
Also returning starter, Eli Ward, freshman at heavyweight. That's a tough combo right off the rip. Most of the heavyweights that you're going to compete against are 18-year-old seniors who are chiseled, and when you're a freshman wrestling at heavyweight, it's tough. But Eli Ward is a warrior. He keeps fighting every single match. Came up with some big wins this year, and I can't wait. When Eli is a junior and senior, and he's the one that is, everybody's looking at like, I hate having to wrestle this guy. He is strong, well beyond what he believes that he is, and tough kid. So I'm expecting great things out of Eli Ward.
I truly believe that Eli's going to be a good wrestler. Like Coach said, being a freshman at heavyweight is tough, but he never once gave up, never once quit. And he's going to continue to work, and I worked with him in the room, and he would understand it, and he would work towards those things that we were trying to teach him, things that would help him during his matches. I think that he's going to do great things.
Also returning next year is Raymond Bentley. Raymond was also one of those surprises. Didn't expect to have him this season, but when his father, Raymond Sr., was hired, we picked up a great little wrestler in Raymond Bentley. At the end of the year, he was behind 2 state qualifiers, 1 state medalist. And as a freshman, and you're a light freshman, he was well under the lowest weight class. It's just hard to break into the lineup. But Raymond Bentley is arguably the best athlete in the room. And when he is at his weight next year, I'm expecting some crazy good things to happen for him.
Raymond being a freshman, like most of the freshmen, I don't think he has confidence in himself. But when he does, when he believes in himself, I was blown away in our very first tournament. He went lights out, wrestled his heart off. And I really do see great stuff coming out of it.
Our last returning wrestler is Gabe Howard. This year, Gabe Howard is physically one of the strongest kids in the room. Had some health issues that I know that he's trying to get behind him. And I fully expected Gabe Howard to be in the starting lineup this year. You can't help the hand that you're dealt sometimes. And Gabe is just one of those kids that, whether he is wrestling or not, we want him around the program because he is such a good kid. But he's also a great wrestler. I got to see that last year, and I'm hoping that he gets healthy this year and has a great senior season.
Even with his health issues, every day he'd come into the room, he'd work his butt off. If he had to take a day off, he was still in the room, right there supporting all of us, listening to us. He never once gave up, and I think that's really going to benefit him.